Okay, so we're going to begin talking about 15.2, which covers crops and soil. So, if you were a farmer, what crops would you grow? Why? Think about it for a minute. So the objectives of this section are to distinguish between traditional and modern agricultural techniques, describe fertile soil, describe the need for soil conservation, explain the benefits and environmental impacts of pesticide use, explain what is involved in integrated pest management, and explain how genetic engineering is used in agriculture. There's a lot of key terms. I've bolded the ones that are bolded terms in the book, and then there's a lot of other terms that you probably don't know or haven't heard, and I will discuss and try to give you a definition in the description. This is a long section. We're going to cut it into two parts just so that you are aware of that. So kind of the big point at the beginning is talking about preserving arable land. So what is arable land? If you remember, arable land is land that is usable for growing crops. So question, can you grow crops on all land? Well, let's look at the desert, for example. Is that a good place to grow plants? No. I mean, you can't really grow if there's not soil that has certain qualities to it, and also if there's not adequate rainfall or some means of getting water there to help with that. Can land go bad or be used up? And that's another question that we're going to kind of talk about. But yes, land can go bad if we misuse it, if we don't work the soil properly, and we overuse the nutrients in it. So some of the ways that we can discuss how we've treated the earth for so long is we can look at the difference between traditional and modern agriculture. So I'm going to compare the two with a little diagram. So if we look at traditional versus modern agricultural practices, all agriculture needs to have plowing occur, fertilization to occur, irrigation to occur, and pest control. Now, when we're looking at traditional methods of plowing, we're talking about humans doing it by hand or using animals to help them. Whereas in modern, obviously, we're using machines to plow the land. Fertilization, with traditional, we're talking about using manure, using compost, whereas in modern techniques of agriculture, we're usually going to be using synthetic chemicals. And then when it comes to irrigation, traditional methods would be using irrigation ditches, just the natural landscape. Is there a body of water nearby that we can take the water via bucket or whatever other method we can use that would be sustainable. And with modern, we're looking at sprinkler systems, which we talked about, as well as drip systems. And so those overhead sprinklers and then the drips where they bring the water through hoses to specifically drip water into locations next to plants. When we're talking about pest control, traditional would be using human means. You weed the garden, or you plant plants in places where they're not easily accessible to animals, right? Or pests, whatever the pest may be that you're trying to avoid. Modern methods usually are using synthetic chemicals to stop pests. Something to think about with the traditional versus modern also would be to think about, what are the resources going into it? How many other resources are needed to do these two different things, and then what's the outcome? What do we get in terms of our yield, right? So that's kind of when we go back to the first section, and we can talk about the yield, and that's a big reason for why we've gone to a lot of modern agricultural techniques. But where are there trade-offs, where we were doing better.